Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, speed gamers around the world, Speed Gaming Live fans alike. You are tuned in to Speed Gaming Live 2021. This is Speed Gaming 2, another riveting race in the Link to the Past Randomizer plus Factorio Archipelago 2v2 Multiworld tournament. This is a round-robin style tournament, 5 teams total. 2 teams you have on display today are a combination of Kippi and alwaysintreble for Moon Spaghetti, as their name is, and We're Sorry in Tyran and Berserker. Alrighty, so you may be wondering, what in the world am I looking at? This is quite an amalgamation of concepts and things. You are looking at, well, an inverted world for both of our Zelda players. This is, of course, a multi-world between 2 teams, as well as a bunch of people putting down a bunch of burner miners in Factorio. Ostensibly, the goal of this is to cooperatively launch a rocket and slay Ganon, or whatever the Zelda goal may be. A lot of people in the community colloquially refer it to as launching the pig. It's kind of like how when you're playing SMZ3, you gotta, beat both games. You gotta kill Mother Brain and, defeat Ganon. This is not that unsimilar. Looking at things, it looks like Kippi checking the dungeon entrance here, trying to see if we have a certain type of dungeon shuffle. Finding Swamp Palace. It's vanilla location, so decent chance that we don't have any dungeon shuffling going on right now, but remains to be seen. So we have seen that there is a key sanity setup as well for the Zelda players. They will need to find a fair amount of things in order to make their way throughout their seeds. It's a relatively complicated setup compared to most of the seeds we've seen so far in this round robin. In inverted mode, there's not a ton that they can do early game. There's pretty much just a set list of total locations that they can even visit in the first place, pending more item collection either by themselves or by their Factorio player. So those of you out there who are wondering when the world is even a multi-world in the first place, well, what even is a randomizer? You might be like looking at this and like, hey, how in the heck are these two things combined? Long story short, every time you look at a location in Zelda or research a technology in Factorio, it communicates to a game server, an Archipelago server in the context of the Archipelago mod. And so those location checks get sent back and forth between games and awarded as either locations, technologies, whatever it may be, depending on the game you're playing. We see Kippi here dropping into Skull Woods as well as Tyran, both trying to take advantage of the bomb drops that they can get from the entrance of the dungeon. You see Kippi here grabbing a second round, as Kono is almost guaranteed to be doing the same thing. But so, continuing the explanation of a multi-world, you're going to basically find items for each other and yourself. We see flippers, for example, here in Skull Woods. Definitely a good find for our Zelda players as they want to cross that bridge in the northeast corner of the Dark World. And swimming is one of the methods you can use. Still going to need something in order to deal with the rock or bush. Actually, the rock or the hammer peg, when they cross the river. But that's one component of them having access to the rest of the world. But yes, your cooperative goal requiring you to help each other out to get items. Factorio has a robust tech tree. In terms of Archipelago racing, it's configured so that your maximum science pack you'll ever have to produce is the logistics science, which is the green science pack. You'll be trying to get basically up to 2 recipes crafted together as science before you're ready to research your rocket silo, and then assuming you have all of the recipes you need to build the rocket, it'll take 3 different recipes, then you can just go ahead and end the game. So you may see some Factorio seeds that finish in less than an hour. On rare occasion, it'll go like an hour and a half, even 2. Alright, and some of you may be familiar with Archipelago already, having tried it. You can find out more information, by the way, at archipelago.gg if you want to try this yourself. But those of you who are more familiar with it might have recognized the Starman icon. It's an unused asset from the original files that basically represents an item in a different world in the multi-world, specifically not a Link to the Past item, as those will show as the normal item itself, even if it's for somebody else. So looking at things, it looks like we're getting the first couple of techs and the most basic science setups for both Berserker and Always in Trouble here for the Factorio start. Of course, they have a bit of a desert setup. This is interesting in terms of long-term planning. They're not going to have access to a lot of trees to cut down to make power poles. It looks like Berserker's actually setting up his power right by the only real wood patch. I guess it's a little bit wooded southeast of their starting points. We really don't want to deviate too far away. So you may see our players take a little bit of time to just grab a big stack of wood to craft a bunch of power poles out of. Necessary stuff, you're not guaranteed to get electric energy distribution for the medium and large power poles, which requires steel in the first place. So outside of the stack of free samples that you would get upon researching it, you're really not getting a whole lot of power poles for free. Alright, looks like Kono Tyran checking to make sure this is a spot you can activate a flute and inverted. Indeed it is. First into Thieves Town by the looks of things. Enjoying a just barely different than normal sprite shuffle, it would appear, as it's rather green in Thieves Town for Kono Tyran. In the meantime, we're seeing Kippi continuously farming more and more bombs, trying to take advantage of every opportunity to not spend the rupees. Neither of our runners have cash to speak of. 5 rupees right now for Kippi. That's the most that we have across both players. As we see a mushroom for Kono, which is not an accessible location, but potentially useful for, say, like a fake powder later, or maybe just the item on the witch location herself. So yes, just recapping a little bit about this 2v2 multi-world tournament racing. On the left, you have Kippi and Always in Trouble, who are Team Moon Spaghetti, as a nice cross-game reference. And on the right-hand side, Kono Tyran and Berserker of Team We're Sorry are their opponents. The goal of these two teams is to be the fastest, lowest combined time for launching a rocket and slaying Ganon, or whatever the Zelda goal may be. To be specific, it's complete all goals, but in Factorio, it's always going to be a rocket. That's right, they are gathering items for each other, sending them across game worlds and also to themselves. We saw a C-shaped house here having some kind of Factorio item, so that's a stack of something for free. By the looks of things, it looked like a train network, a generic progressive item that you might need 1 or 2 of. You definitely don't need all 10 of them. As we see Kono finding a bow, it looked like, in C-shaped house. I may have seen that. I don't actually have the full multi-world tracker handy, as that is a pretty good resource when you're playing this. But we do have an abbreviated form of it. Oh, isn't the brewery? Okay. We have an abbreviated form of it on the actual stream overlay, so you can see a good general gist of the important progressive items. So it looks like Kono might be the first person to start farming money. The commonly seen archery minigame, a thing I don't personally like too much, inverted in this format is unusually common in this tournament for no reason, even though it's like a 25% chance, I think. I feel like I've seen it at least 75% of the time. Maybe that's just our luck in the way we roll. But yeah, money farming, a common thing in inverted if you are in what we would call hard BK mode, where, I guess I should probably explain that. Legend has it a long time ago in a multi-world format at a live event, someone was so bored having nothing to do, having done everything they logically could, that they literally went to Burger King and ate a burger, and came back and they still had nothing left. Well, that happens in this format too. Multi-world, sometimes you just wait on your partner to start getting you stuff. And Factorio, they're busy scaling up for a long time. Like here in the warm-up portion of their factory, we see just the first couple belts going down. Berserker here putting down the first true smelting setup. We're also seeing that he's taking the time to drop a miner and a assembler for what appears to be stone furnaces. So Berserker has seen something about the actual recipes that suggests, hey, I need to scale up my smelting to a ridiculous degree, and I'm not going to get the stone from just mining rocks. So he's prepping for the long haul, trying to outscale his opponent. In the meantime, we see some power generation coming down for alwaysintreble, who is kind of getting that first big setup underway. It's important to have a lot of power generation in Factorio. Everything that you do requires you to be at full power, or else you take a speed penalty and a productivity penalty. So, in general, you need to scale your steam boilers, steam engines. You need to scale it up with the size of your factory, including anything that draws power, like miners, labs, assemblers. The actual power production structures are a common source of pollution. They're not the only source of pollution, but the pollution cloud attracts alien species called biters, which absolutely will come and destroy everything that you've worked really hard to create. In a desert planet or a desert spawn, you're significantly more likely to have that pollution spread quickly because stuff like trees would block it. So we'll see how long it takes for these two Factorio players to venture on beyond their borders, having probably set something up that they can set and forget for a little while before they do so. For example, maybe their first, true science setup. We'll see how long it takes for them to get out to beyond their borders and how many science advancements they have in terms of like military, as that'll directly determine how long it takes, how risky it is. I imagine we're probably going to see both. I think we have actually seen both players grab a stack of fish from the water, which is their only real health regen. In the meantime, seeing more of that thief town from Kippi, and Kono's going to actually head southeast. Going to use those flippers and take them up the river, seemingly to head to Palace of Darkness, which is a strong decision to make in an inverted circumstance. Alright, so just kind of touching base on how this all works. Every time that Factorio researches a technology, it's either going to be a technology for themselves, which they get a free stack of as a sample, or it's also just as likely that they could be sending an item to the Zelda world, or really any other world that you have configured in Archipelago. This 2v2 format, it would be Zelda, but it could be an item for Risk of Rain. It could be a card drop for Slay the Spire, or even like a hook shot for Ocarina of Time. AP or Archipelago compatible with a lot of different games. It's multi-world, multi-game randomizer. But in this format, one of the technologies that you would normally have researched might instead be like a Master Sword, or a flute, or any number of things, maybe even junk items. Our Factorio players can actually determine, or at least look at their tech tree under these settings to see whether something is considered or flagged as progressive or not. And so they may or may not choose to actually research the things that are not technically required in regards to like the utility of the item. You might research 5 or 6 heart pieces just to help your partner, or maybe you need to do so to get deeper into the tech tree to find the things you need. For Factorio, you typically will just pump through every single tech you can until you have a clear path to the end. And once you do know how to make your rocket and have all the components you need for it, and you know that Zelda's not waiting on you super hard, you probably just dive the rocket and try and get your win condition as fast as possible. So answering the question, chat, about how Zelda helps Factorio, these Starman items that you're seeing represent, multi-world items that aren't Zelda. And those are Factorio technologies. So you might get Logistics Science pack, as one of the techs, a Progressive Science pack more specifically. Or you might get like Logistics 2, and that will give you like a stack of 100 red belts, underground belts, and, splitters. Stuff like that can be really helpful if your Zelda player is good. Their potential for actually like pushing your factory ahead way faster is big. Unfortunate death on blind here for Kippi. Blind is a very deadly fight, particularly in inverted, when you're just starting off with next to nothing. Kippi does in fact have at least one sword. I didn't see if there's a Master Sword. But yeah, so I mean, these are things that they must have stumbled across just over the course of the items that they found. I don't think Factorio has really ramped up much for science just yet. I do see a couple sciences coming out from Berserker here. I imagine alwaysintreble also probably right behind them. They seem to be using very rudimentary setups with like 5 or 6 labs on one assembler, which is pretty common. It's a good way to, kickstart your science. You'll notice they're only like 14 minutes in. That's a decent time for Factorio to have like real meaningful production of science. I didn't see the exact recipe for the red science pack, but we'll be able to tell by looking at the actual science array once they've made a real one. All right, Kono's desire to go into the right side of the Dark World over the east, producing a Palace of Darkness check. Kippi, in the meantime, who has not found, Kippi, who has not used those flippers just yet, is going to opt for more money farming, as Kippi does not have enough to even open Palace of Darkness. Remembering this, Kippi's going to take time to do some archery. Maybe needing a couple of extra rounds thanks to an unfortunate arrow there. I can relate. I miss like more than that every time. I miss more than I make. It was a good thing I had 45 minutes in the showcase to showcase exactly how hard a straightforward archery minigame can be. But Kippi looks to be emerging victorious from this combat. Probably going to go once or twice more, just to get more rupees. The only reason not to. You expect to be kind of stuck here for a while Factory's, kind of scaling up. So Kippi's going to try to, I imagine, get at least one more decent go. Yep. As we see Kono heading to the right half of Palace of Darkness. No mirror, no hammer currently, so this is a one-way trip with a death warp. Thankfully, 3 hearts in this multi-world format is not uncommon, so pretty likely to take a fast death warp once desired. Alright, we are seeing, we saw this before on Kono's side, Bombos in the digging game. In the meantime, a absolutely gigantic smelting array for Always in Treble. You may know him in the AP server or Archipelago server as Wags, potentially, but he is shaking a leg, not a tail here, as we are seeing just a absolutely gigantic iron smelt. So that recipe for, same for Berserker. It must be at least 4, maybe 8 seconds for the iron smelt, as I don't think I've ever seen in a competitive format one as big as what we're seeing in the bottom left corner of your screen. That's, what, like 50 stone furnaces? Oh my goodness. Hype Cave exploration for Kippi, ground that we recently saw from Kono. Not too hype, a little more tripe, if you will. But that bottle's pretty nice. A full red potion. Of course, we haven't been to the light world just yet, so we don't know if the sick kid's got something critical. Looking at what Berserker just received, it doesn't look like that was an important tech. We're looking at Pod to see kind of what in Palace of Darkness might help the factory unlock the world a little faster. Something else to point out about Archipelago that's unique, or at least is worth explaining in terms of how this format works. There is a hint system supported by the server software itself, so you'll have a server client open. It's just a little text window running alongside your game, which will tell you, information about things that are happening. This player sent this player sent that. You'll also be able to interface and connect to the multi-world server from there. But more importantly, if you've uncovered a certain number of locations, you'll get what are called hint points, which you can then spend to find out the location of 1 or 2 things, depending on how many points or how many locations you've already uncovered. By default, in this particular racing format, you can get 1 hint for every 20% of all of the total item locations, meaning that you're really never going to have more than like 2 or 3 before you're so late in the seed that you're stuck anyway, and you're probably finishing the game at that point. You could get up to 3. I mean, you're never going to really see a 4th hint unless you had to full clear your game. So these 1 or 2 hints that you're going to see from these players, we can find out based on the multi-world tracker who hinted for what. Those hints can be make or break for the entire seed. We've seen it happen a lot. When you're stuck in hard BK mode where you have no real routing options, ooh, that's a Death and Ice Palace, you could potentially hint for an item that does nothing for you. You find out that it's locked somewhere you can't get, and you get no information about how to get there. Or you can luck out and find out that, it's a specific item location in Factorio that the player can look at in their tech tree and frequently get for you like within moments. You know, with this tech difficulty of logistics science, all it would take really in most situations is how long, do I need to handcraft this many green science if I even had to do that. So hints for Zelda players, very powerful. For Factorio, you're generally going to be able to make your red science right away anyway. As for green science, you may need to do some digging in the tree to get there. Rocket components you're likely to get along the way, but if you have early access to your rocket silo, you may end up using a hint to get one of the 3 recipes that you make the rocket out of in the first place. We don't have any information yet about what the rocket silo's components will be. You will see players try to buffer those 3 components and have a large stockpile ready to go to try to launch their rocket while they're trying to kind of sort out the rest of the details of the seed. But we have not seen any of that just yet. In fact, we're just seeing the power expansion for both of our Factorio players simultaneously. An adventurous little radar module going down there for Berserker, who's going to use that to scout the map and hopefully spend less time running around in the desert, which would be very wise. Getting a low % dark room here for Kono Tyran, who appears to be in the dark U room, gathering both items, but I could be looking at the wrong thing here. No, Dark Maze. And that ended up yielding, I believe, plastics? That could have been something else, though. If that was automation, that's huge, because getting any improved assemblers is huge for your productivity. Free stack to just use in the first place, and they're also crafting faster. Not entirely certain that was what it was. A little hard to see looking at the actual view. Wow, that is 4 smelting arrays of equal size to what we saw from Always in Trouble before. This is just a stupidly large amount of smelting. I am aghast is the only word I even know that even eclipses it. An eclipse appropriate metaphor, I suppose, for Moon Spaghetti Team. Wow. By the looks of things, it looks like our Moon Pearl's been researched. I'm just going off of a very helpful member in chat, Kirby Fan, thank you, for helping me try to keep track of all this. We're seeing a pyramid-shaped tech tree as well from Berserker here as he's kind of digging through what is available to Checksart. So you'll see that the Archipelago items have this, chain of spheres. It's interesting visual metaphor. The ones that are fully saturated in terms of contrast, have full color, are the progressive items, and the faded ones that don't have the up arrow in the corner are the non-progressive items. So our factory players will probably unlock research non-essential stuff simply by virtue of wanting to get to the things that are required later in the individual pyramids of tech checks. All right, Kippi in Ice Palace. Kono Tyran heading further back to check the vanilla big key chest of Skull Woods. Does not have a fire rod in order to go to the back, so this is just a location check here. First large lab array for Berserker, as we see Ice Tea Room here from Kippi. Going to be something for Factorio. I saw 3 stacks of something awarded. That looked like it was probably pretty good. Alrighty, Kono trying not to let Wallmasters or Gibdos rain on his parade. Understandable. Alrighty, time taken to gather, health before heading to Palace of Darkness. Taking a death warp for Kono. Kippi, they appear to be heading over to the pyramid, and if we find a glove, they may end up also checking the catfish as well. There's that moon pearl from Team Warsari's Berserker being researched and sent out to Kono. So Kono is ready for Light World access pending items to get to Light World. Now, normally in this format, you'd be coming here to the pyramid to check the goal condition. That, unfortunately, is not a thing since this is inverted. It would have to be the Light World at this point. We're going to find the Quake on the pyramid, which we did see from Kono earlier, as both attempt to continue to finish the last of their early sphere checks. A very intelligent pause buffer here from Kippi. They managed to dodge a really scary-looking, I guess, mini-moblin. Yeah, so definitely worth pointing out how difficult it is in inverted mode when you are playing Multiworld and don't have a lot of items. So those of you streaming in potentially a little late into the race, you're watching 2v2 Archipelago Multiworld Multi-Game Randomizer. This is a competitive Multiworld format, 2v2. As I've already said twice in this last two sentences. Always in Trouble and Kippi, the two of them on Team Moon Spaghetti. Working together to cooperatively both launch a rocket and defeat Ganon, or whatever the Zelda goal may be. They are sending items and researching things for each other across games to try to do it as fast as possible. The other team, Kono, Tyran, and Berserker, are also trying to do the same thing with the same set seed. They are Team We're Sorry. Getting some novel Ice Rod usage here from Kippi. They are maybe trying to see what the freeze stun prize is, or maybe just trying to get Kiki to the castle... the palace, of darkness, unperturbed. That is entrance. Kippi not wasting any extra rupees on that front. Kono actually doing quite well in terms of money, so Berserker at some point has sent at least 300, it looks like. I don't think Kono has done anything unique, although Palace of Darkness may have those rupees. I would imagine it'd be 300 plus the couple hundred that you can get in the basement. I don't believe we've seen a lamp from either side, so Kono may have farmed some of that in the dark as well. Alright, another news, gigantic, ginormous, ridiculous scale smelting going on both factories. This is normally not so discouraged. I mean, they're only 27 minutes in. They have their science setups, they're pumping out science. The thing that concerns me is just the ridiculously high potential for biter attacks. That pollution is going to carry, and it's going to carry fast. And, yeah, so it looks like Always in Trouble here are going to scale down a little bit on some of the absurd blueprint they had laid out. And probably for good reason. That might have been a little too much to set up. We see a little bit of a mall, as people like to call it, on Berserker's side here, giving the basic essentials that every single factory needs. You need labs, you need to make a bunch of them. You need to have some green chips made, not necessarily a ton, but you need to have some on hand to make crafting faster. And by the looks of things, it looks like Berserker's setting up for engines, so I'm seeing basically a double inserted belt with pipes and gears. He is gearing up, no pun intended, maybe intended. We're sorry, we're not, I guess. I don't know. Trying to find some way to work the name into that. But it does look like Berserker is trying to set up to incorporate the steel into that mix, and I would assume that it's either a green science component or a rocket component he wants to have ready now. He just hovered over green science, so I'm going to guess it's part of green science. And engine is about as expensive as you can get. Not the worst, but pretty close. Alright, more trudging along for the Zelda players, desperate for any opportunity to continue their game. They don't even know what their win condition is yet. It could even be a pedestal goal. Even pedestal Ganon. So we'll find that out as soon as they have a means to get to the Light World. As we're starting to see some green chip production here from Berserker. You're going to need green chips either way. We're seeing something of a more traditional efficiency design. A lot of times when you're making green chips in the vanilla experience of the game, you're going to try to do a 3-to-2 ratio for the green chips from copper wire to actual green chip assemblers. Now, that's not necessarily the way the ratio will always work, depending on the actual recipe time. In terms of Archipelago and how the mod works for Factorio, there are a lot of different things that you can jumble around up to, and including the amount of time it takes to craft each recipe, ranging anywhere from 50% faster to 200% slower, and more customizable to your taste for your own personal settings. For competitive, they're set to the same, for each team and within a certain range. But so, from what I'm seeing, the smelting recipes appear to be really slow in this seed. Like, they are scaling for infinity and beyond. And I'm seeing a more efficiency-minded build for green chips for both factory players, which suggests to me that that recipe is also not as fast as they would want. Or maybe they're just trying to compensate for how much slower the copper will be. In the grand scheme of things, though, I mean, they're both producing to large scale. Could just be habit. The 3-2 setup is a little bit slower to build, but is definitely more efficient overall. It is an underrated skill set, actually, in Factorio speedrunning, as it were, including this sort of format, to just be able to build manually very quickly. You are not allowed to import blueprints in the actual race settings. You could do so in your own setups for Archipelago, but in this format for competition, you're not allowed to bring blueprints in with you. But you could make new blueprints while you're playing. You can still use the copy and paste functions, and if you do have logistics set up, it's okay for bots to make your stuff. You just find that 90% of the time you're handcrafting and you're hand placing pretty much your entire factory. And so the speed at which you do that is a significant factor to how long you spend trying to scale up just to build your science, build your rocket, and launch it. The real measure of a skillful Factorio player is, how long does it take you to get out of the burner phase? How long does it take you to set up your science arrays? Being a bit agnostic, of course, to the actual costs of recipes and the difficulty of recipes. That is a close fight here for Kono. Blind on the first go-around, proving to be a bit more difficult than we were prepared for, which is unfortunate. The refight of Blind is very difficult, particularly at low health. Typically, you'd have the opportunity to line yourself up nicely with the start of the fight, near the top of the screen. Blind on refight will be at the top of the screen already active. And without access to sword beams or a good ranged weapon that will do damage to Blind in this circumstance, Kono's got a very difficult fight ahead of him. We're seeing some Bombos use here in the Palace of Darkness Dark Maze for Kippi. They will attempt to try to get every single item in here, and I commend them for doing it. Regrettably, not a whole lot of important stuff. Just a set of 10 arrows. As Kono going for round 2 on phase 2, 1 heart left, gets a heart container, but it's not the whole, or heart piece, but not the whole container. Gonna burn a red potion, and absolutely must get all 3 slashes here, watching out to avoid direct contact. Oh boy, gets it. Alright, maybe not the most critical 20 rupees ever, but that's a crystal. And Kono is on the board. I don't remember seeing if Kippi won the boss fight against Blind. I'm assuming that, given the lack of total things to do, probably. But we'll find out from them later. Kippi, in the meantime, will actually stop to buy a blue potion, which is an interesting choice. Not a ton of rupees to work with, although I believe both Zelda players have done most of the expensive rupee things they need to do, except for King Zora. Kono, on the other hand, has the cash for Zora. Could potentially, upon Light World entry, have an opportunity to get something critical that Kippi can't. And it looks like chat's keeping us up to date here. Kippi did die against the Blind fight, so I think we might be seeing ground retread here in that direction. As Kono here, going to head to the Ice Palace entrance with Bombos in tow, marching for another attempt. Kono's partner, Berserker, setting up a third row of labs. This is pretty standard fare, but it is quite a few labs at this point, really reaping the rewards of having automated production of them. By my quick visual count, that looks to be something like 30. Always in Trouble now starting to finally produce those labs. A lot of folks will just manually craft pretty much everything in this format. There is, to a degree, stuff you want to make. You probably do want to have something making a stack of conveyor belts. At least some inserters is a good idea. And labs, generally considered, because of how expensive and slow the research is, it's a good idea to at least get some automated. I'm a recent convert to that theory. It just helps your Zelda teammates so much. Alright, so I'm looking at Always in Trouble setting up what appears to be, I think, the red science, the major red science. I'm seeing iron ore and coal on large scale. Yep, so those are red science packs. A very large setup for it. And if that research recipe, or if the recipe for the red science packs is fast, then this would be Always in Trouble basically setting up to pump out all of the red science, fully half of everything he can send. Gotta give it to these Zelda players, both Kippi and Kono, really digging through a very difficult seed for them. Nary a heart beyond the one they've received so far. And despite the silver arrows that Kono just received, they've really been, like, bone dry on equipment. We see, of course, just a fighter sword for both of them, it looks like. No, that's actually a master sword? I don't know. It might be just sprite shuffle that I'm seeing on Kono Tyran's side, but the sword looks blue. I'm guessing that's probably just a shuffled sword sprite. We got a quick look at Berserker's map screen there. You can check in the map screen how big your pollution cloud is. And once your pollution cloud expands beyond the borders of your site, you're in trouble. The biters are coming, and they will ruin your day. Berserker, on the other hand, here, setting up for a very far away power pole. And I'm guessing probably to put down a bunch of different, radars. So that's going to give Berserker much farther vision out into the desert, instead of taking the time to walk all the way out there and kill every nest, and potentially get hurt on the way through. Berserker's just going to do it remotely that way, and that's a smart choice. Alright, taking a little bit of time to recorrect the array here for Berserker. That is green science underway and in full production. Looking like Berserker set up a very large setup overall for it. It appears that Always in Trouble has been working on basically just the same 8 or so labs and the same assembler up until now, so good time for him to be getting a much larger scale going. We see Kippi, they're heading back for this blind fight, having to use that blue potion to stay in it. Only 3 hearts to work with, still phase 3 to knock out. Just really wants to avoid the direct hits, and that is an unfortunate death. Doesn't really have the cash just yet to buy another blue potion. So yeah, he's gonna just reset the game, try to preserve that potion. Smart heads-up choice. To kind of explain something about how resetting works in Multiworld, you will still get your items from your teammate that you've received so far, so there will be a difference in save progress, right? Well, once you reload, you'll receive any of those difference items again. So you still get everything you had before, you don't lose anything. But it is a good way, kind of like how you would save scum the mushroom in regular formats for randomizing Zelda 3. Regarding the question in chat about win conditions, we know that our Factorio players just got to launch a rocket. They need to make 3 rocket components and have the recipes to actually launch it. Once they've done that, though, they will send all of their remaining locations at once. It's in terms of multi-world lingo, it's called forfeiting out your items. It's not an actual forfeit in the terms of a race, but it's as if you're saying, hey, I've done everything I can, I've beat the game, please send everything that I've done, as if I'm, like, leaving the session. So auto forfeit is a thing that's set on goal completion for this particular racing format, meaning that our Factorio players have a significant incentive to launch their rocket as soon as humanly possible to help their Zelda teammate finish their seat as quickly as they can. Now here's the kicker. We don't know what the goal condition is yet for Zelda because they don't have access to the Hyrule Castle sign here in Inverted that would tell them what their goal requires. So we'll find out as soon as they have access to the Light World, which I imagine is probably pretty soon. They have surely hinted for at least one thing by now. Alright, Kippi has to watch out here. Gets the heal, gets 2 slashes, and that is blind. Excellent. We're going to see some bomb jump attempts here from Kono. This is a really scary setup. Ooh, that's a glove. Glove from Factorio. That was critical. So instead of having to do this bomb jump, Kono now has Light World access. From the looks of things, that was probably a very expensive Factorio research location. I almost kind of think I see alwaysintreble doing a really expensive one right now, and that may be the same thing. Alright, so Kono is going to take the glove and immediately head up the mountain. The only real place to go at this point, to be honest. The mountain will give us all of the inverted locations, so we can actually get up to the Gans Tower entrance. It's potentially openable. Or I'm getting this mixed up. Not the Gans Tower entrance. What would normally be the Gans Tower entrance is actually Castle Tower, so we can get to Aghanim if we need to, in terms of getting to the Light World. Or we can explore more on Dark Death Mountain, which we will have access over to the right half, if I'm remembering this correctly. Okay, a really large green science array undergoing construction here for alwaysintreble, who is trying to get the engine components over here to the green, and I have no idea what the other component is, but it looks like they've got pretty much all of that set. Alrighty, alwaysintreble here, getting the big green science going. This is quite a bit behind Berserker, who has been constructing this stuff for quite a while. We see some damage, actually, to the south side of Berserker's coal setup. So he's actually going to have to go south and deal with these biters, and not a comfortable position to be doing that. I'm sure Berserker at this point would much rather just start constructing rocket components and buffering them before leaving the base. Well, that was a death from Kono Tyran in Dark Death Mountain? I'm not sure, actually. Well, I wasn't expecting to see this from Berserker. We actually saw Berserker setting up automation on making assemblers, which generally suggests that you need to scale for really big production, as the 50 free samples that you get on just the first automation tech was usually pretty good for getting you most of the way through your seed. If you get automation 2 or 3, you pretty much never have to make any. So very interesting to see Berserker taking the time to automate that. We see, it looks like water pumps and shotgun shells and repair packs. That is all 3 rocket components, it appears to be. Unless one of those is somehow a green science component, it looks like we now understand the rocket, and That means Berserker should be in go mode, from what we can tell, ready to make all of the rocket and just release Kono from the torment. I gotta say, Berserker really snuck up on me there. I did not see him construct any of that. In the meantime, Always in Trouble, kind of running into some Always in Trouble power problems. Starting to scale up some of the the steam turbines, the steam engines, excuse me. Trying to get ready for end game power requirements, which is a common problem in Factorio. Kippi, they're just trying to do everything they can to get the rupees for Zora prior to having access to Zora. They're turning out to be an eagle eye. Kippi going to really reap the rewards of this farming, taking a lot less time than I would have expected. We saw a compass go out, so these two teams know which text they need to dig through to get to where they need to go. A lot of pressure being placed on Factorio in this seed. Alright, powder received for Kono Tyran from Berserker, who is already queued up the rocket silo. I'm seeing also a little bit of biter conflict going on here. It appears that a radar outpost to the south has been destroyed. Yep, and we're seeing a couple of biters getting wiped out here. Looks like both Factorio players have flammables, so they have a flamethrower, which will definitely help with the nests. I see Always in Trouble also has a rocket launcher. I'm not sure if Berserker has it or just hasn't equipped them. Alrighty, seeing some of that flame usage. Berserker opting to hold on to a big old pile of fish just to be ready to tank through all of this damage. We saw that he did at some point either receive armor or craft armor. Always in Trouble, who also sometimes goes by Wags, does not appear to have any armor on at all. And if he chooses to go, fight, has to be a little bit more careful about healing. Alright, it's been a while, but Catfish here, being checked for Kono, finally has something to do. And that is something for Factorio. It would appear to be a junk tech. I think probably a progressive follower robot speed. So not a great feeling. Kono probably being like, all right, I'm finally able to help. And then it's not helpful. But it feels bad, man. Regarding the question in chat about isn't 1,000 rupees enough? I mean, it could be, but if you have nothing else to do. This does give Kippi the ability to actually gather blue potions, so it's not a bad idea. I mean, you may as well just have a big stack of them. Looks like Always in Trouble taking time to wipe out a gigantic biter base. That's like at least 6 or 7 actual nests there. And this, watch out. Always in Trouble, almost dead here with like 20% health. Finally decides to eat the fish. I'm not saying I'm stressed, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they were. We're seeing Berserker taking the time to lay down a bunch of solar panels. This is free power, basically. Because once you unlock the tech, you get a stack of 50 panels. You may as well just drop them down. You get a free extra gigawatt or so of power. So we'll see Berserker try and take advantage of that, just placing, a couple of arrays here or there, wherever there's extra space. We've seen both of the Factorio players jumping in and out of rocket silo research, which is interesting. That's a deliberate choice. For what it's worth, though, this gigantic smelting array is still not complete for alwaysintreble, who may have been just designing more than they necessarily planned to build. Seeing some discussion in chat about the ether that we found out is required to get into Turtle Rock. That'd be interesting if that was a factorial item that they're choosing not to hint for. And at this point, probably realizing that it'd be better to just launch the rocket. As soon as Berserker has, say, 1,000 of all of the components for the rocket, generally you'll just see the factorial player switch immediately to the rocket silo. It looks like right now Berserker's trying to dig through and gather at least something to give Kono something to do, as alwaysintreble has been clearly, pushing for that for quite a while. Things slowly getting a little better for our Zelda players, I guess Kono in particular, who now has at least, 5 hearts to work with. Currently sitting at 4 out of those 5, now 5 of 5. So a little more durable, not necessarily that much. If you gotta kill Cold Stare, I mean, yikes. Pushing on like 60 or something labs here for Berserker. Just gonna scale into the moon. You may as well. Science packs take a certain amount of time per pack to extract all of their scientific value. So the more labs you have, the faster everything researches. If you have a stockpile of science packs sitting on the belt, you could have more labs. I'm noticing a significant trend of both factorial players having way more resources than they're actually putting to use. I imagine that this is just out of the expectation that they need to dig through the entire science tree, but as far as I can tell, it looked like Berserker had all 3 rocket components. Alright, so we saw Berserker taking the time to make these automation setups for at least a couple of different components. We see pipes being made, we see assemblers. Hard to say exactly what the plan is, but gigantic stockpiles of resources for both factories. Alrighty, seeing even more shotgun shells here. It looks like maybe actually green chips. Yeah, actually Berserker is setting up a mirrored green chip setup to try and pump a few more into the rocket components. We don't need them for the shotgun shells, which only require the copper and the iron, but both repair packs and underground water, or what is it, water pumps? Oh, geez, I'm trying to remember water to... I think it's just water pumps. I'm trying to think of the actual name of the part. It's the one that he has opposite of the shotgun shells. Both of those require green chips, and a lot of them, and that seems to be the bottleneck currently in Berserker's factory. We're seeing some setup of the same components here from alwaysintreble, who has actually just sent a Master Sword to Kippi. They are considering their options from there. We saw that Master Sword go to Kono at least a little while ago. So addressing the question in chat, for those of you who are coming into this a little bit later for the race, this is a 2v2 competitive multi-world, multi-game randomizer called Archipelago. This particular racing format is a Factorio game mixed with a Zelda game with 2 players on each team. So one is building a factory to launch a rocket. Alwaysintreble, for example, and Team Moon Spaghetti is doing the factory, while Kippi is the Zelda player. They are sending each other items and sending items to themselves as randomized locations. So the Factorio player is researching these items or recipes, and Zelda players are just finding little Starmans throughout their world, which represent Factorio items, or in the larger context of Archipelago, it's just non-Zelda items for other worlds. So you'll see the little Starman symbols when Zelda finds something for Factorio. For the most part, though, this inverted setup here for the Zelda players is resulting in quite a lot of late waiting time. We see a hint for progressive research speed out of the Dark World Sahasrahla. I don't know what you want to call that particular moss dude. Wisdom aside, the research speed is nice, but definitely not something you're going out of your way for. I think Kippi just trying to take advantage of any information source possible, as they do not necessarily have a lot of hint points available. I would say based on overall Factorio progress, because that is the gatekeeper of both teams right now. Ooh, that was a biter attack. Always Trouble's got to watch out there for the power setup. I would say that there's a significant advantage for Berserker in terms of rocket progress. As soon as that rocket silo is researched, Berserker looks to be ready to, like, go. Always in Trouble, not that far behind. I'm seeing, actually, boiler production. What is going on here? I have no idea what this rocket is made of. Seen from Chad pointing out that Kono ran out of bombs there. Given the difficulty of inverted, it's not super surprising, but that's a rough situation to be in. Alright, so it looks like a hammer was sent from Berserker to Kono. Kono now has access to the Light World, and ergo, our first look at the goal. 56 minutes in, we're going to find out what Zelda players need to do in this seed to actually finish. And it could be one of those really funny situations where, like, it's a fast Ganon and they have the one crystal they need, and they might just jump in like ASAP Rocky and finish before the factory. Could totally happen, probably not. We see Swamp Palace and Tower of Hera are 5-6 crystals. No idea if Kono or Kippi will make any attempt at doing that. Interestingly enough, we see both of them stopped, which I believe is a reflection of both of them trying to do hints. Or Kippi trying to strategize otherwise, looking at the item log, you know, the tracker, whatever can possibly glean some information while Kippi is waiting for Always in Trouble to send a critical item. Okay, that is a 5 crystal Ganon, and I did not see if the entrance was open, but that means Zelda has quite a lot of work left to do on both sides. I believe both of them have at least, yeah, they have 1 crystal to speak of. Given that you have a lot of flexibility of choice, you could probably pick remaining crystals that are fast to do. It wouldn't be too hard. And yet, in spite of access to the Light World, it looks like Berserker's still doing progressive research for Kono. Always in Trouble, still also working on, you know, every single progressive tech available. The more expensive ones are roughly the same equivalent cost in general as their original counterparts, just they're only going to be red or green science in this format. What the science requirements are for techs is still shuffled to some extent, but depending on the scale of difficulty you choose for your seed, you can go all the way to space science if you want to. But it's not necessarily required, you know, to play the game, you know, scaled for a ridiculously long amount of time. Alright, we already have access with 0 crystals to Ganon's Tower, so Kono, the first one in. For those of you who like to guess where big keys are, I guess you could probably throw some numbers in chat. Number 1, definitely not going to be the torch. We are still presently bootsless, so can't even get that small key. Alrighty, more labs going down for Always in Trouble. Picking up the catfish item, which we saw earlier, was probably nothing critical. Kono, though, has opportunity to get a lot of things to make Factorio better. That appeared to be Circuit Network. that just got sent. Research speed and I believe productivity modules could have been assemblers. Both are good. Kono opting for the Death Warp out of there. Doesn't have boots. Not a very convenient setup to explore with. We'll check Hope Room real quick. Maybe if there's a big key here, you can climb the tower. You probably don't want to do that, but you could. Would still need a fire source to get all the way up, though, I guess. I believe Kono has realized there's not much to do here, so while we see Berserker setting up gigantic arrays of labs at this point, looking like, you know, Berserker's just going to try and do everything he can to get Kono to a position to get 5 crystals. I'm guessing that there's something I'm not seeing as far as the rocket components go, because if I'm in their shoes, before I've built 175 labs, it would seem, I'd probably just launch the rocket already. Nice to see rocket silo research progress for Berserker here, looking to be about 40%. So I think Berserker just trying to shift between both things, get some progress on that tech, while also going back to send some items to hopefully help out their partner. Here we are looking at the first buffer setup for Always in Trouble, setting up a couple of chests at the end of the belt, trying to take advantage of a big assembly setup. Looking like a biter attack has disconnected the power for Always in Trouble from the assemblers, but otherwise not a massive attack. We'll be able to recover from that very quickly. Alrighty, we are seeing good 60-something% for rocket silo research. Berserker will be ready to assemble that rocket right quick. Kippi gonna get us an old man check. That is an item for Factorio. I believe that is actually a... that might just be a damage upgrade. Alright, I think we saw a big key there in Randomizer room for Kono, so pending any kind of fire source, that is a potentially climbable tower. Alrighty, seeing a little bit of extended long-distance combat here from Always in Trouble. Looking at the gigantic pollution cloud, really no choice. Eventually those biters will overwhelm your base. You're not guaranteed to get turrets, and you're even unlikely to some extent. At least in most of the seeds I've seen. So you can't just count on being able to defend yourself. You might not even have the ammo to do it. I'm just going to go out there and take care of those biter nests. But this is precious time lost to the, frankly, really great design of Berserker's factory. You can obviously see that there's a lot of smelting going on here. Power demand is probably really strong, but if scaled correctly and if you set up your buffers well, that can totally be worth it. Interesting damage boost strat here from Kono Tyran to cross the gap there in the invisible bridge room. Did not bother to use a bomb. Save the health, too, from only half a hit. And we'll be able to take that down to the Ice Armos fight. Has silver arrows, should be pretty smooth and straightforward. Alrighty, Ice Armos fight here for Kono has emerged victorious. A very patient strategy. Not fun to do that without boots. To move faster. Gonna get rewarded with a health refill, some kind of Factorio item. I think electric accumulators and maybe a buff. Probably not productivity modules, but if it's productivity modules, that's great. That saves you a lot of rocket components. I'm looking at barrels? I am so confused. Berserker has automated so many things that I'm not entirely certain what is or isn't a rocket component anymore. I don't see a reason you would set up 4 assemblers for repair packs if that's not for that reason. Alright, goal check here for Kono, finding out about the 5 crystal requirement. Gonna head into the Hyrule Castle entrance. Berserker by now knows what his partner needs. Oh gosh, was in trouble, almost dead there. Having to watch out with the rockets. 10% health yet again. Having smashed a few fish, should be alright. Alrighty, we're seeing some electric accumulators drop from Berserker. These are free stacked items. This just gives you a buffer of electric power in case you need it for like launching the rocket. Very close to having finished the rocket silo research at about 90% now currently. We're seeing Paradox Cave here for Kippi. They are attempting to gather all the items here. Nice to be able to get a big density check right in one go. That is a fire rod, a necessary fire source to finish the game, as you need to be able to light the torch to defeat Ganon, unless you're like a quadruple arrow god. Alright, so if I had to guess based on what I'm seeing from Berserker, these are water barrels that we're setting up. I guess I've said it for like the 90th time, but must be a rocket component. I don't know why else you'd be building those, so... of the 10 things I've claimed are rocket components, that is definitely one of them. There is no reason you would ever need those. And we've already seen green science being made, so... I gotta be right about this eventually. Seeing a strong buffer being placed, the unfortunate thing about fluid handling is that all of the barrels stack 10 barrels in one stack, which you want like 50 for any stack, or even 200 if you can. So it's very expensive stuff to store, and making a buffer is difficult. You have to kind of do extra stuff. It's time consuming. There's the rocket silo. Berserker here going to be the first to place it down. Doing some interesting things to do that, actually. I'm not really sure what this is all about. Oh, okay, so it looks like a direct insertion method. Kind of novel. Berserker will attempt to hand feed as many things as possible. Has no productivity modules, just speed modules. So going to take advantage of that to try and craft each rocket part, all 100 of them, as quickly as possible. So now it's just a matter of getting the buffer contents all the way there, all 3 rocket components on belts, however you got to do it. Try to survive as long as you can. You know, the biters might just come to destroy everything, all of that hard work, so it's kind of a scary moment if you aren't ready. Looking like Always in Trouble here, going to set up for the water barrels as well. The early steel smelting should help here. Not necessarily going to be enough, if I'm looking at this correctly, to get a rocket silo launched first. I'm not sure if he's even made significant progress on the rocket research. We'll find out shortly, though. Now that's interesting. We find out from the bottle vendor that there's a progressive inserter for Factorio, pretty easily accessible in the light world once you get to the light world. You get a free stack of, well, 2 free stacks of inserters with the fast inserters and filter inserters. So that's 100 inserters that you can use for designing your factory more efficiently and not having to craft any of them. Unfortunately, it's like almost useless at this point. It would make the rocket silo work a little faster by feeding him components, you know, quicker. But they definitely wanted that earlier. The inverted rearing its ugly head yet again. If you ever see it in your Archipelago game, you should get that tech for your Factorio friend. All right, we're getting more light world checks here now for Kippi, as we see Eastern Palace out of Kono. Now that's a spicy, a tempered sword here in Blind's Hut. Finding a couple of Factorio items. And a Cane of Samaria. Kippi making the big play here in Kakariko. You might be thinking, hey, an hour and 9 Kakariko, what in the world is going on here? This is an inverted seed, so that's not entirely uncommon for a multi-world. Alrighty, Berserker's rocket humming along, looking to be, wow, like 60-70% complete. Berserker's auto forfeit sending of items is going to happen real soon here, so you'll see a flood, a deluge of items being sent to Kono, who will have to wait through all of those prompts in order to resume the game, but we'll have received a boatload of items in the process. We did find out, though, that Fire Rod and Cane of Samaria not in the mix. Those are in Hyrule, so Kono might end up feeling kind of disappointed as the sick kid's going to give us a book. All right, more well wishes and things being sent to Factorio, all feeling a little too late, as our Factorio friends today having to do quite a lot with very little for most of the early game. Which is not to say even a little bit negative about the Zelda players having nothing to work with. They had, I would say, much more difficult equipment constraints. Alright, Berserker just doing everything you can to drag a few more components manually over to the rocket. The time it takes to just get a belt going there when you can just run on concrete. No need to do all that. Looking like the last couple components here about to be made has productivity modules now in there, so saving a little bit of resources. A death here for Kono and Eastern Palace. Not a lot of health to work with, understandable, as we see Berserker finishing up the very last 1 or 2 rocket parts. And that is enough to launch the rocket. Berserker's going to, as soon as he has the rocket into space, at this point, should be the winner of this race, barring ridiculous nuclear catastrophe, in a position to round out that half of the leg of the race for Team We're Sorry. So Berserker doesn't have a vehicle to throw into the rocket, it looks like. Just going to launch the rocket and exhaust all power in the process. Here we go. And with that, Berserker going to send all of the items. Will finish in first place for this race with an official racetime.gg time of 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 26 seconds. Get your GGs out in chat for Berserker, who is half of the way to getting Team We're Sorry to win here. Kono, of course, has to carry the other leg of this race, as it's the lowest combined time for your teams that determines the winner. So if Always in Trouble and Kippi finish faster than the greater overall difference between Berserker and Kono Tyran, they could still snatch victory here. So it is definitely not over yet. And I mentioned it before, a veritable deluge of items. This is a torrential monsoon, as it were, as Kono, just taken hostage here in Eastern Palace, has no choice but to wait. Because you're not going to go into a dark room when you're just continuously thrusting your hands into the air, throwing random items into your inventory. You can't do that. Titan's Mitts, we're finding boots as well in the forfeit, so all the items sent out from goal completion on Berserker, a boon, boots even, towards seed completion. Of course, we have not seen a tempered sword yet for the progressive sword coming back from Factorio. It may very well just be in Zelda. If Hyrule has that fourth sword as well, then this has been a very difficult equipment setup that Factorio couldn't have done too much about. The other glove would have been helpful. Quivers and bomb bags abound. There are 35 bombs available to Kono and a quiver of 45, just looking at the upgrades in the pool that they've received so far. We will, in the meantime, get some escape checks here done by Kippi. Not a terrible choice. I think a lot of people in this situation, though, probably want to just be diving dungeons. We've now gained access to most of the world. I'm very curious about the thought process when I'm pretty sure Wags has a path to the rocket at this point. Alright, and that's all of the items for Kono. So, for all intents and purposes, Kono is going to be in go mode soon. As soon as Kono goes to Kakariko, there is no configuration of dungeons they should not be able to do. You should be able to get to 5 crystals with what you have. I think, though, that Ether might be the missing component if Turtle Rock is required, but I think we have the crystals otherwise. Well, I made a point to comment about it before, about the gigantic lab arrays. I'm pretty sure both of our Factorio players are bordering on 100 labs, maybe a little bit less than Wag's side. And Kippi here setting up for a death warp, going to take the time to get all the way down to half a heart, getting that last chest in the basement, and taking the death. It's something for Factorio, but probably not anything too significant at this point. So the tail of the tape at this point, I think, really comes down to, wow, that's a mirror in Eastern Palace. That's big for Kono. I want to say the story to be told here is that Berserker's fast finish is giving Kono a lot of information. But Kono does not have that fire rod from Death Mountain and Paradox Cave, and does not have the cane of Samaria from Kakariko. So depending on when Kono decides to do these things will directly determine how soon Kono knows everything that he needs to know in order to finish the game. Kippi at this point, besides the hammer, should have a pretty good idea of what to expect here. Problem is that hammer was an expensive tech in Factorio. We saw Berserker get it at some point earlier, and I don't think alwaysintreble is researching it. If he is, that's the tech he's got right now, and it looks like it's going to take a while. Alright, so from the looks of things, Skullwoods is one of those crystals, and we would need Flute to get to Misery Mire. So we're going to need either Flute or Fire Rod, and I know we'll need Ether if we're going to do Turtle Rock as well. Not sure if Turtle Rock is a green pendant. I want to say we saw there was a green pendant hint somewhere. Maybe chat can remind me. Yeah, I'm of a similar opinion to Bad Moons in chat, who is a little confused about the decisions to do overworld checks and GT instead of Crystal Dungeons when we know the goal. There is actually some sense to be made in terms of gathering as many item location checks as possible to hint for something. But at this point, I mean, always be clearing dungeons, right? Yeah, and that's a good point in Chad from Cannonbert that, you know, they may have hinted for Flute or something, and they may have found that hint being somewhere here in Gan's Tower. As where I admit that I don't actually have the tracker link open, so I don't actually know what they've hinted for. But typically, you know, you would know what your partner needs if it's in your world when they hint for it, you get a message for it. And indeed, that is a Flute. Here in the compass room of GT. We did not see Kono do this when Kono was in GT earlier. I would presume because I think Kono went full left, if I recall correctly. Oh, right, I see, I see. So the lack of Cane of Samaria made it impossible to go right. That makes a lot of sense. All right, looks like Kono's going to be into Swamp Palace, going to check the hint tile to find out that the Fire Rod is in Paradox Cave. That's the only cave with 7 chests to speak of, so that is direct information off that hint. Smart heads-up play to check it. This is all in all, though, a very tough setup for Always in Trouble and Kippi, who know, from looking at the race time room, or could know that Berserker is done. Always in Trouble, who also sometimes goes by Wags, just to clarify, probably feeling it right now about Berserker having finished so much faster. It's possible to finish a Factorio seed pretty quick, so it might not even be that surprising. And Berserker's a really high caliber player of this game, in my opinion. Certainly one of the top 2, I think, of all the teams that we have for this tournament. So, I mean, you don't expect to, see Berserker struggle with the factory necessarily, but every single minute that Always in Trouble is not done, that Berserker is extra pressure placed on Kippi. Kippi has to finish that much faster than Kono in order to make up that difference, and the amount of time that can be saved is dwindling quickly. Kono now knows about the Fire Rod, and is probably likely to go see Kakariko at some point before going into Skull Woods to complete it, since he can't, do it without the Fire Rod. I think this is really Team We're Sorry's, on the right-hand side of the screen, so they're race to lose at this point. Alrighty, Kippi heading to the left side of GT, still looking for items. I gotta think that by now Kippi is either hinted for Hammer or knows that it's in Factorio somehow. I'm not entirely sure, but Kippi appears to be waiting for that hammer at this point. Okay, so Kippi did hint for the hammer. We know this because, they decided to wait in this room to use it. So Always in Trouble had the information and found that item specifically for that purpose, having now started the rocket silo research. Also like to point out the sportsmanship from Berserker here, who has not a whole lot to do while waiting for his partner to finish, so put a GG in Hazard Concrete. Happy to see it. Of course, for those of you who don't know, Berserker is one of the founding member of the Archipelago dev team, having kind of worked alongside several other people to bring Factorio to the Multiworld format. As an April Fool's joke originally, but here we are, barely half a year later, playing this for SGLIVE, a literal cash tournament. Argus fight here for Kono Tyran, as we see Kippi leaving the GT area, moving onwards to... I'm not sure. Well, it looks like we're seeing more of the buffer setup for those water barrels here for Always in Trouble. Getting ready to get that rocket started. Already almost halfway through the rocket silo research. That's a consequence of having a bajillion labs and stockpile of research. That is a silver arrow to the eyeball. Argus, being quite the R guy, pointy stick in pupil aside, a boss down, crystal acquired for Kono Tyran, who is marching onwards towards the Ganon fight. We'll need at least to get the fire rod or a lamp. I believe Fire Rod just for the sake of dungeon completion at this point. We need 5 crystals to defeat Ganon. So to point out to chat who is talking about Archipelago and all these other games involved, there are like 8 games currently supported in the main release of Archipelago. You could mix Risk of Rain 2, you could mix Slay the Spire, you know, A Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, Minecraft, Factorio, and even Subnautica. There are a couple other games in the works. I believe Super Metroid is near full release. SMZ3 might be a little bit more involved. That is a project that doesn't belong to the devs who are doing it currently for Super Metroid implementation, so that might be a while before we see anything like that. But something similar might be possible soon. Of course, if you want to keep up with everything going on with Archipelago, or AP as we like to refer to it, the best place for information to get started is archipelago.gg. And of course, the Archipelago Discord server is a great place to get either tech support for helping set up, or to play daily games that people organize, or even the large 200+ game asynchronous Multiworld that takes place about once a month, over the course of a month, where you can grab a couple of save files and cooperatively beat a lot of games together. So yeah, if you want to get in on this stuff, by all means, join us in the server. Sessions happen every day. You can play any game you want. We'll help you get it figured out if you're not sure what's going on. Alrighty, we're seeing the rocket silo buffer set up here. Looks like Always in Trouble has even put down a couple of beacons, about to drop the silo in place, having just finished the research. From the looks of things, in a good spot. We'll want to put down productivity modules to save some resource. Ola has done so. Looks like level 1, as we see a fire rod for Kono Tyran here out of Paradox Cave off of that Swamp Palace hint. Alrighty, a massive biter attack here on Berserker's finished game. Looks like we're just going to get the blinking red GG for a second there, as he eventually eliminates them, puts down a turret for his defense. Using uranium bullets, because why not, right? I'm looking at a gigantic lab setup that is no longer in use, so Always in Trouble here. Probably going to turn off all research to just make the rocket the highest possible priority, trying to just funnel everything into getting that win condition ASAP, as every second on the clock is going to hurt the cooperative time more and more. The deficit between Berserker and Always in Trouble, not necessarily going to be the determining factor of this race, but if you're in Always in Trouble's position, you want to be done ASAP, as soon as you possibly can, to take that pressure off. All right, moving on to the Armos fight. Kippi with a 40 arrow quiver, certainly in good position. 54 arrows on Kono's side, so no shortage anywhere. All around, the silvers are plentiful. Gotta say, that is quite the difference in health, though. You look at 6 hearts here for Kippi, and 15 for Kono, and that is just the difference of the forfeited out items from the win on Berserker's side. Kippi, having acquired the mirror, has pretty much all of the components for go mode at this point, it looks like. As far as I can tell, that's everything that Kippi will need. If Kippi, if they're comfortable with dark rooms, Kippi can just, skip everything else at this point. We did find out, of course, that Turtle Rock is one of the crystals, so Ether potentially desired here. But honestly, if you can just not do Turtle Rock in the 5 crystal goal, you just don't. Addressing the question in chat about the difference in time so far, it has been about 18 minutes since Berserker finished the factory. So we're looking at about a 20-minute deficit. It's possible, it's just, if Always in Trouble launches like in the next minute or two, Kippi's still got to finish 20 minutes faster than Kono in order for Moon Spaghetti, team on the left, to take the win today. It is difficult, but not completely insurmountable. It is possible to struggle in Zelda. And right now, the Cane of Samaria is the big unanswered question for Kono, who might be able to hint for it at some point, but does not have knowledge of it, it would appear right now. So to reiterate, Berserker's finish time of first place was 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 26 seconds. So we are right around the 90-minute mark here. I do want to take a moment to thank SpeedGaming for hosting these races, by the way. This is a very novel racing format to give us a chance on the big stage for SGL, which is a very prestigious racing event for cash, by the way, which is really exciting. It's a big honor, and we're really grateful to have the opportunity to restream this for you here on SpeedGaming 2. If you want to keep up with all of SGL 2021 and any further future events on SpeedGaming in general, you got to follow the SpeedGaming channel, SpeedGaming and SpeedGaming 2 through 6. As well, we mentioned already the plug for Archipelago. It's archipelago.gg. You can find out more information, guides on how to set all this stuff up, and that'll even point you to the Discord server where you can coordinate more. Moldorm fight here, going off without a hitch for Kono. That is another crystal on the board, further cementing the opportunity for victory. However, Cane of Samaria, unknown. Very curious to see how long it's going to be. I'm of the opinion that if Kono goes directly to Kakariko at any point in the next 10 minutes, very likely to go run away with this. Looking like Always in Trouble having a significant iron bottleneck in the original smelting array. We had seen Always in Trouble actually ghost blueprint double the size of these smelting arrays, but it would appear that there was just not enough mining productivity to fuel those smelters, so opting to cut back on that. Right now, an expansion of miners might feel a little excessive, being that we're already about 30% of the rocket completed. At this point, it's hard to say whether you want to handcraft things or just scale up all of your production facilities. We're getting a lot of stuff being crafted in a row for these rocket parts, so Always in Trouble walking by with a stack of one of the components. Handcrafting, not that uncommon. So just to reiterate for Chad who was asking about it, archipelago.gg is the website where you can find out more about the Archipelago multi-game Multiworld randomizer. It encompasses up to 8 different games. You can find setup guides for all of them. Use the Get Started link, I think, on the main page. And that will also give you the opportunity to look at the Discord, which has much more, up-to-the-moment information, when there's updates and stuff like that. It's a rapidly evolving project, so, your support helping beta test. We've been doing a lot of Super Metroid sessions lately where we're trying to incorporate Varia and other things that, people like as quality of life. Look at that bunny sprite. Kono showing us, I'm not even sure that's a Moblin from Zelda 1. That's pretty cool. But yeah, Archipelago is a really fun suite of multi-world software. You have clients for just about every different game. You can install as much or as little as you want. Give it a look. Mothula fight here for Kono. Another crystal on the board if we can emerge victorious from this. Lots of health to work with, but not a lot in reserve at the moment. A Villainous Wolf in chat. If you need a friend who plays Factorio, go to the Archipelago server and we'll play one with you. I promise. There's a lot more Factorio players than I ever expected for this, to be honest. And I don't even think the main Factorio community is even really aware of this yet, which I think they might embrace. I don't know. There's a lot of Factorio speedrunners who might be looking for more to do. The neat thing about this Factorio setup actually is that because Science Pack recipes are randomized, you get a very diverse playthrough every time. You really got to think on your feet, which is very much opposite of the normal expectations of Factorio speedrunning. Factorio speedrunning is typically kind of formulaic. You know exactly what you're going to do with what you got. You can play on a random seed, but you're still making the same stuff. In Archipelago, depending on your max science pack, you could be making all kinds of complicated stuff. And you can generally make it work with most quality of life mods, like Far Reach, Squeak Through, all that stuff works. It's when you start adding new recipes and new researches is when it doesn't really support all that. And maybe in the future, who knows? But yeah, so like something like Crastorio or Bob's Angels mods, those aren't going to necessarily work at all. Maybe some functions of them, but the tech tree won't. All right, so Kono has marched through several dungeons, having acquired that fire rod in a natural position with that mirror to get to Kakariko Village. We're seeing the very last little bits of the rocket being prepared for Always in Trouble. We are approaching a 25-minute deficit, so this is becoming a very difficult hill for Kippi to climb. 97% production here on the rocket, right on the cusp of finishing this Factorio seed. I'm guessing that the smelting recipes have been just absolutely brutal. That is completion of the rocket. Always in Trouble here just needs to press the launch button as soon as the rocket has emerged from the silo, and that will be enough to get that half of Team Moon Spaghetti into the completion. Good news for Team We're Sorry. Kono heading to Kakariko. It would be unconscionable to think that we missed this Samaria, being that we are dropping into the well. That is completion for Always in Trouble. Get your GGs in chat. Always in Trouble going to finish with an official race time in second place of 1 hour, 35 minutes, and 57 seconds. GG. And that's going to give us approximately a 22.5-minute separation between these teams. Of course, you got to account for Kippi here going to spend quite a few, like at least a minute or two, just clearing out items. Attempting to do an icebreaker. Kind of rude. I think Always in Trouble could have waited a little bit. That's sometimes actually a factor. You should always, in a multi-world, try to inform anybody who you're going to send forfeited items out to that you might just be sending them this torrential downpour of stuff. And then they should be in a position where they're okay to receive them. At this point, though, the time difference is so large that unless Kippi died, it wouldn't matter for him to receive these items here. It's probably just more personally frustrating, but it's not a bad thing, no. There is Tempered Sword for Kono Tyran, and did Kono just skip Samaria? No, he had to have gone to the back. We did not just see the Samaria skip there, did we? We saw Kono pick up the Tempered Sword, so I'm guessing that both of these things were hinted for. But yeah, I'm very concerned. So I'm guessing then that Kono has found 5 crystals elsewhere. There's no other reason that you would skip that if you didn't have all your stuff. So I'm going to assume that Kono has 5, and I've just miscounted. And from where he's heading now, it looks very likely. So I think that's the case. I may have just panicked a bit. I'm sorry, chat. Long seed. We're going to drop into Ganon here. Kono trying to close it out for Team We're Sorry. They won't be sorry when he finishes the seed. And yep, looking at the text, he has not been given the Udingus message. So just a Tempered Silver's Ganon fight. And this is a smart decision to, do the hint for the sword. That's going to be really valuable. Looks like Kippi just finally got the last of the items out of the item forfeit from completion. Kippi at this point will be heading into Skull Woods, probably trying to get the last crystals needed. I think he's pretty close, actually. As Kono's wrapping up Phase 2 here, having to be a little careful. I don't think Kono actually has potions. I gotta say, having seen Kane Samaria skipped, I panicked. Ooh, and that is a fall. Oh no. Well, certainly I hate to see it, but the good news for Kono is Kono has a lot of opportunity to attempt this several times. The time deficit allows Kono as much flexibility as they want. So by the looks of things at this point, I think Kono is just going to go buy potions. It's worth the time. When you know that your partner is literally 20 plus minutes ahead of their direct opponent, you have the freedom to do something like this. Mind you, because it is lowest combined time, technically Kono only needs to finish within 22 and a half minutes of when Kippi finishes in order to win the seed or win the race for their team. So until they've seen the dot done in race time, Kono really has no reason to worry about hurrying. And even then, you would still have like several attempts at Ganon available to you. So we'll probably see in the interview with these two teams, as we do actually have another race for Kippi and alwaysintreble, I think at 4 p.m. today. Maybe sooner. I got to double check the schedule for that. But we'll have to ask about strategy in terms of what things these teams hinted for, where they prioritized in the tech tree. This is a seed that put a lot of pressure on Factorio to find items quickly. When the tech setup looked to be a very expensive smelting. So yeah, this is a pretty brutal multi-world seed. Most of the time when you're playing, it's not like this bad. Even in competitive, inverted's only a 25% chance. Here's Ganon attempt number 2 for Kono. Looking like a good setup to finish up phase 1 here, getting a sword spin. That is a rocket launch for alwaysintreble, or at least a... Not rocket launch, what am I talking about? Re-entering, getting all these items. Tiredness speaking through here. Looking like a matching GG here from alwaysintreble, having probably looked at Berserker's side by now. Or maybe just similar sportsmanship, let's call it that. Looking like Kippi wants to do a Hera pot, potentially, to get to the top of Tower of Hera, while Kono here is in phase 3. Hera pot be darned, pause buffers reign supreme as Kippi will be climbing to the very top here through teleporters. They will have the Moldorm boss fight here, and I believe we'll be pretty much done with crystals by my estimation. Of course, I've been wrong a few times today, so maybe not, but I think. Alrighty, we're at phase 4, the last little bits here for silver arrows, as we see Moldorm go down and Kippi acquiring yet another crystal. Is this it? Is this the final arrow? Not quite. Just one more. Holy mackerel. Kono putting us into a state of panic here, at least in the booth. But that will be enough. That will be a GG for Kono Tyran. Just needs to enter the Triforce room to finish out this race and give Team We're Sorry another win. Get her GGs in chat for 1 hour, 43 minutes, and 47 seconds. Kono Tyran finishing 3rd place of the 4 on stream today, which will give Team We're Sorry... It's a funny Triforce text. The 1st place finish for the race. Yeah, and from the looks of things, I think that was the final crystal for Kippi as well. So Kippi here will be walking into the Ganon fight shortly, proving to be a pretty close finish for Zelda, actually. We'll see about potentially getting these folks in here for an interview. Folks in chat, if you have any questions about Archipelago, Multiworld racing, all that stuff, this would be a great time because I can probably answer a lot of that. Alrighty, some fancy sword spin attempts here. Just gonna move on smoothly to phase 2. Kippi going to take advantage of some tempered slashes. Will take the opportunity to use the cape. I agree with that. Smart strategy when you have blue potions in pocket. Actually, I think just the one blue potion. They've had one bottle all seed, which is not fun. That's enough to get to phase 3. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe 2 bottles. 3? 3 bottles. I can't count. Actually, Kippi having one of each, interestingly enough. All right, so addressing the question in chat, are there items in A Link to the Past for Factorio, and how does that work? Yes. So you have items both for yourself and for your partner other games going on. So in Factorio, that would be like recipes. They're the technologies that you normally research in Factorio. They're just item locations in Zelda, or both. And when you get a technology in this particular format, you also get a full item stack of that item that you've unlocked. So if you get automation, you get a stack of long-handed inserters and assembly machines. So definitely fun to get. That is the last silver arrow for Kippi. Kippi here will be finishing just shortly. And with that, Kippi will close out this race with a official racetime.gg time of 1 hour, 46 minutes, and 23 seconds. Get your GGs in chat. All right, so I know the burning question on everyone's mind right now is when is the next race of this? Because this racing format is just fascinating, right? I believe we have another race from Team Moon Spaghetti here at the left, Kippi and Always in Treble later today. Let me grab the exact time for you. All right, and that race is planned against Aolina and Matcap, Team Bolas Azules, on SpeedGaming 3 at 4 p.m. today Eastern Time, which will be just over 2 hours from now. I'll be getting a nap in myself, as I will be on the mic again. If you are tolerating that up to this point, I appreciate you for tuning in. And we will see if we can pull these folks in to talk to them about this. Well, they'll probably call it a dumpster fire of a seed, but maybe not. It was fun to watch. All right, I think I got them the link appropriately, so we should be speaking with these folks here shortly. I believe we are actually joined by at least one of the 4 players so far, Kippi and Always in Treble. I believe we have Berserker coming in here in just a moment, and maybe Kono as well. But GG, congratulations.
GG's.
GG.
That was rough.
I mean, hey, you got through it. That's the important thing. GG's as well to Berserker and Kono, who have also joined us.
Hey. Yeah, no,
GG.
on your comms thing that invites us that you have to click. Which you can do.
That's not a button per se. I had to manually invite.
No, there's a button there. You have to hit the done button first, and then you can hit the invite racers button.
That is a panel I do not have access to from the SG automation.
Yes, it is. It's in there. I've done it before.
It's in there.
I will send you screenshots later, but yeah, GG, nice job on the race.
Oh, I'm getting mauled by biters. I want to go watch.
Yeah, I'm standing on a GG sign where I put down a turret because biters kept trying to bite me away from GG.
No, this is the first time I've really been like hit by biters hard. Which direction did you build in? Did you build north?
No, I went west.
Oh, I went east. I didn't want to deal with those cliffs over there.
No, I dealt with them.
Fair enough. I just dealt with the trees instead.
I had a few biter attacks. Some things got bitten, but nothing major.
Yeah, it turned out there was one biter base very, very far to the south.
Yep.
I just kind of assumed we were on a peninsula. I assumed we were on a peninsula, and then I was like, oh, all right.
I had the radar down there, so I knew it was a peninsula, but the radar just barely didn't find the base, so I didn't know. I'm still like, surprised.
That's fun. Did y'all hunt for the hammer or the glove?
Wait, what? A hammer?
Did you not hit for anything?
I hit
Yes,
him for
you
the
hit
hammer,
for the hammer.
but I got it like 2 seconds after
It was
I hit
already
it for it.
queued at that time.
Yeah.
It took me a while to find the hammer. I don't think I found it until he hinted for it.
Yeah.
I didn't hint for any glove. I didn't have any. I got the glove real early.
Huh.
Yeah, I had to hint for it because I was in BK and I figured glove.
Yeah,
would
because
unlock the most for me.
I pretty much went into BK mode. I finished everything I could in Pod, everything I could in Skullwoods, everything I could in Thieves Town, and I was in Ice Palace doing stupid things. When I got the hammer and the glove, like almost back to back, I think it was. No, it was the I had the glove because I also I had the glove. I had already gone up to the mountain.
Hook shot into hammer.
I got the hook shot, which led me back to the mountain out of Ice Palace.
Oh yeah, I also got my hook shot pretty late.
Yeah, I'm wondering about the order you went in through your tech tree then, because hammer was one of the last things I got, and I full cleared my red tree.
Probably was a mixed one then. I mean, I just churned through.
I was going through mixed trees, but well, I guess if it was a green and red, I didn't get my military for a long time.
Yeah, I got.
So I couldn't make green for a very long
into
time.
green fairly early, and also got to 100 laps.
It took me a while to find my military, which that's what got me.
Yeah, because I think Berserker, you hinted for your fluid handling.
Yeah, I also hinted for fluid.
Which, as soon as he did that, he's like, okay, trash research mode, and he started just researching everything else. And I was just like, oh boy, I got rather quickly to Hyrule Castle, and I'm like, oh, Zero Crystal GT, I'm getting that for you right now.
Yeah, as soon as I noticed that that was probably gonna take a while, I only made very tiny buffer production for the rocket, which turned out to be sufficient, and just churned out that red-green science.
Somehow my tiny buffer wasn't enough. Because I think that early military you got might have helped.
Probably.
I think Berserker ended up launching as he ran out of power.
Yeah.
As the biters were attacking and killing his base, he was launching the rocket.
I was running low on power, and then they bit off my science labs. I was like, oh well, I guess I'm just not gonna reattach those.
Yeah, and you also have a huge power spike as you're launching as well, so I mean, like, that can also exacerbate that too.
Yeah, but it also gets multiplied because I had beacons around my port. I
did mean to ask, though, because of the scale of the smeltery, what were the lengths for, iron and copper? I mean, that looked like you guys were preparing for just a gigantic smelt.
It was fairly short. Both of them were 1.6.
I was just getting prepared in case we got fast belts or fast inserters or anything, which I never got until the very end, but,
Well, also, I knew that because the rocket needed water belts, which you get to know from the beginning of the game, you're gonna need steel. So having a decent amount of iron just buffered so you can quickly get out that steel is nice.
Yeah, I had that's why I had like 3 smelters like immediately, is because I saw we needed steel and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go ahead and get that prepped. I ended up not using. I started prepping like a whole bunch of length, and then I ended up only going like 6 or 8 deep.
Yeah, I went 12 deep, I think, but only had 2 iron, 1 copper of that design.
Yeah.
So I think it bears repeating at this point, since this has come up quite a lot. Are we sure that inverted's only 25% weighted?
Yes.
I mean, but like, you know, I believe in coin flip math, but I think, you know, if I carry the two, something's not right here.
We've been randomized. That much for sure.
Yeah, coincidences do in fact happen, folks. And the age-old meme question, is it even randomized, is settled today. We certainly had quite the shuffle.
Also,
Yeah.
it seems like it feels like all of the gloves are in Factorio. Like it's been pretty consistent at this point. It's great.
It's a glove factory. What can you say?
Or as a Factorio player might say, they're being held ransom behind my steel axe. Where is it?
This time it was literally a freaking Light World factory, or Light World Access factory.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like, both the hammer and the gloves were in there.
Mhm.
And the moon pearl.
And the moon pearl.
And the pearl,
The
yeah.
Moon Pearl.
Forgot
Hey,
about that.
did you? I guess you didn't have gloves, so you didn't even think about it. I was like contemplating for a second doing Dark Aga, and then I'm like, no, I'm gonna die and lose a lot of time. Not lose a lot of time. It was in BK mode almost, so I was like,
Yeah, no. So that's one thing I was gonna consider as soon as I got my glove. But the thing is, when I got my glove, so it was the one that was the one. Wags had the one that was hinted for queued, and he just so happened to stumble upon the other glove. So I got both my gloves back to back. So I was just like, okay. And so first I did Paradox Save to get my Fire Rod because that was a known hint tile, and then I went to the Light World.
Wait, where was that hint? Oh yeah, no.
Swamp.
So
Yeah.
I hinted for that, and then like a minute later ran into Swamp and like, oh, hey look, there's the hint tile for my Fire Rod. I could have used that on a sword.
You could have also
Well,
gone into a swamp and read the tile from the beginning of the game.
Yeah. That's actually what I did.
I
'Cause
always forget that you could do that. Like my brain doesn't imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
I was
no.
actually just going into the swamp just to check if it was dungeon shuffle or not.
Oh, no, I went I got the chest in Link's house, then immediately save and quit to go to Bomb Farm
That's
in
fair.
Skullwoods.
It's also been consistently a really good Link's House chest, hasn't it?
Yeah, that was what arrows this time.
That was a sword.
Sword.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah, the sword.
right.
Yeah,
I
the
think
sword
last time it was a glove.
Yeah, the
Was it-
early sword really helped out.
Well, here's
how,
hoping for non-inverted next time.
Yeah. How long were you at a Master Sword for?
Well, it was until I got Light World Access. As soon as I got Light World Access, I went to Gek and then just got my tempered there.
See, as soon as I got Light World Access, I was like, beelined it for the castle, found out, got him his Go Mode item in GT.
Yeah.
And saw that it was 5 crystals, and I go, oh, I can start to clear these dungeons. So I went immediately over to Eastern Palace
Yeah.
and Pod to go clear them.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up not clearing Pod because I got info that it wasn't a crystal.
Yeah, same here. That was literally my route, but it was different because I didn't have the hammer, so I had to wait for Wags to send me the hammer. I got his fluid handling. Then I went to Eastern, and then just I felt really good when I got the mirror off Armos, because then.
Oh yeah, that was nice. I was like, sweet, now I can do swap.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I had in my mind.
And then I went up, got my Fire Rod, did Hera, and then did Skull Woods. And then I went into CAC. Because I'm like, I have a Master Sword. I don't want to fight Ganon with a Master Sword because I'm no good at that. So I started trying to get enough hit points to hint for a sword. And I'm like, CAC Rico, I haven't touched yet. Let's go there. And I got it out of Blind Hut. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Never got Samaria. Learned later that it was in Blind Hut that I
Yep.
I didn't finish because as soon as I got that sword, I beelined it out of there.
Yeah,
Back to
yeah.
Ganon.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, yeah, I was looking for where my hammer could be because I didn't have enough hint points to get. I was trying to get enough hint points to hint for it, and Wags had then hinted for his food handling.
Both of my hints were useless. Well, okay, no, the Fire Rod. No, yeah, both my hints were useless. hit it twice, and they were both immediately answered by the game.
I had a bit of a wild decision at the end because I did not have by the time I finished Swamp, I was like, oh, which dungeon do I do next? Because Wags hadn't been done at that point, and I was missing maps on Skullwoods, Mire, and Ice Palace. I didn't really want to do Turtle Rock, even though I knew that was a crystal. But so I gambled. So I attempted to gamble on Ice, thinking,
Nope.
okay, I'll just Icebreaker that, but like I didn't actually end up clearing it because Wags finished and he sent me maps for all 3 of those dungeons. So I was just like, oh, okay, I'm out of here. I'm just going to Skullwoods.
Wait, how would you know then?
Because were
you not in Ice Palace yet?
I was in Ice Palace. I was about to Icebreaker and then Wags forfeited. Or Wags finished.
So you then left the dungeon to check?
Yeah, I was just like, if I'm gonna do this, I might as well do it. Might as well just mirror out right now. See, alright, is this worth doing? And then nope, it's a pendant. So then I decided to do Skullwoods and Hero as my last crystals.
Alrighty, so looking forward though, I believe that both of these teams still have a couple races left to go. Is that right? I think we have one more today from Team Moon Spaghetti at 4 p.m. on SG3 if you folks are looking for more action. But I believe both teams still have races.
Yeah, we still need to schedule our last 2. It's been an adventure to get 4 people together.
Yeah, it's actually one of the biggest challenges with the ALTTPR League is just trying to get co-op races going. And in this format, even scarier to try and do that because you got to find somebody who even plays the requisite game. So getting this tournament off the ground even in the first place, I admire you guys a lot for organizing it.
A lot of that goes to Iju. He's been adminning a lot of the Archipelago tournament stuff quite well.
Yeah, no, he's just been putting in a lot of work. He deserves a lot of credit for getting this organized.
Well, we did talk at length in the commentary about how to get into Archipelago for those of you watching. If you're tuning in late to this, archipelago.gg, you can find more information and ways to get to the Discord as well to get more day-to-day, moment-to-moment updates if you wish for the bleeding edge, as a lot of us enjoy in that server. Quite a fun environment to be in, to be honest with you.
Discord, you can also flip back and forth. Archipelago.gg/Discord or Discord.gg/Archipelago.
I will say that in the next one for sure, so that is a much easier way to remember it. But any closing thoughts from for our victors today, Kono, Tyran, and Berserker?
I found my side of things fairly easy.
Just other than the deserty bits.
Yeah, some getting bitten happened, but it was relatively tame this time around.
Always a good time when the biters don't bite you too hard in the back. And the 2 teams definitely resolved those concerns pretty well. Well, I want to open the stage as well for final closing thoughts from Team Moon Spaghetti before you take your break before your next race later in about 2 hours. Any closing thoughts, folks?
I am bad at this game, obviously. I thought I was a little bit better at this game than this. Here I am being proven wrong. Because I didn't have to deal with any biters. I dealt with like maybe literally 2 waves of single biters the entire time. I think I just didn't have enough labs apparently. But yeah, come check out archipelago.gg/Discord, discord.gg/archipelago. We have daily multi-worlds happening constantly in our Discord, and anybody's free to join. You can play other games too. You don't have to play Factorio or Link to the Past. We also have Minecraft, which that tournament is going on.
One race left for that?
Yeah, actually, me with Snapkick and Berserker and Kono tomorrow night. And then we also have, and we also have Link. We also have Ocarina of Time. Super Metroid's coming soon. We have Time Spinner, Risk of Rain 2, and Slay the Spire. Come check it out.
Don't forget Subnautica. Everyone forgets it.
I think even the devs forgot about Subnautica, of the original game.
Crucial
Alright.
game is fine. Yeah, good luck and have fun on your next race, Moon Spaghetti.
Oh yeah.
We'll try.
I mean, I'm trying to have fun. It's.
I'm having fun. Kind of.
It's pretty fun when I don't have to do it. It's nice when I don't. It felt really good when we found when I got both of those gloves back to back, and he immediately checked catfish and found my research speed, and I was like, "Oh man, like this is gonna be huge." And then you finished, and I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay."
Yeah, I thought it was a solid idea at the time because like I was in BK, I was just like, you know what? Let's check the check that's like way out of the way first. As soon as I get this.
Yeah, we'll have
Sometimes-
to go look at the VODs and see, because I feel like as
I think
fast
it
as
was-
the
Got me
second
that
people
low.
finished, they didn't really.
Yeah, I
also
think.
got the lab research speed off of Catfish. I remember that.
Yeah.
Well, it certainly was a fun watch back. Apologies for the ranting on the restream when you do watch it back, but you guys were definitely entertaining to watch today. So, folks, if you haven't already, you should follow all 4 of these runners. We'll throw an exclamation mark R in the chat. Not quite a pirate command, but certainly going to point you in the right direction for seeing all 4 of these folks. Play more of all of these different Archipelago games. Everybody in this call and in this race actually does play more than one game, so you can catch all of that checking out their channels. I think that just about does it, though. I certainly need a vocal rest before the next race. And GG's and congratulations to both of these teams. It was very fun to watch, and I'm really glad to have an opportunity to have 2 teams on display today showcase this, because it's a lot of fun to play Archipelago. That is everything for me. I'm Udai Mystic. Stay tuned on this channel and the other SG stuff. On this channel, we got a Wind Waker randomizer coming up. SpeedGaming Prime. We'll have Super Metroid Randomizer. We'll have The Messenger, New Game Plus, No Out of Bounds on SpeedGaming 3, and Super Metroid Any Percent on SpeedGaming 4. And of course, if you want to see one more of this, Link to the Past Randomizer and Factorio, Multiworld 2v2 Archipelago, SpeedGaming 3 at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 hours from now, roughly. We'll see you there. Thanks for tuning in, folks.
Thank you. GG.
Thank you. Stream. GG's.
GG.
Mm-hmm.